PK's on vacation, but join us right now, Bob Casper from Real Golf Radio. Bob, good morning.
Good morning. I'm better anyway.
Okay. See, he's just going to listen to this, and you're going to have to pay for that later when he comes back. But you don't care. You're going to pay either way.
That's the point. That's the whole point. I need to rile him up to begin with.
Stirring the pot. Nice, Bob. All right, Bob, we need to have you. I'm here. We need to have you on because Tiger Woods he's got a committee, but let's face it, he's Tiger Woods. And he and the committee are going to rethink the PGA Tour model, and he says it may take a couple of years to get to this new model because there are contracts in place, and you have to wait for some of them to be up. But this is radically different. The Western swing that those of us who live in this half of the country know about and love is being dramatically reworked. It looks like they're not going to either of the tournaments in Hawaii anymore. It looks like La Quinta might be gone, and the stops at Torrey Pines and Riviera could be moved to the summer and be part of the playoff. The tournament in Phoenix on the Super Bowl week will be moved to made the season opener the week after the Super Bowl. There's more changes coming, including taking a week off after the major championships. They say they want to own the summer when basketball's done and football hasn't started. Yeah. But they're also going to take weeks off at the same time, which in stories I've read, it's been encouraged by players and media partners. You hear all of this. You're a traditionalist. Your dad was on the tour back when you were driving around in a car as a kid from stop to stop. You love the tour. You hate live. What do you think of all these changes to the tour that you know and love?
Well, it's kind of interesting. The PGA Tour is a niche tour, and it's a niche sport. But you know what? Everybody watches golf. Everybody loves golf that are golfers. So I'm kind of on the fence with both because, one, I want to see the top players playing more, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to pare down the PGA Tour so that the top players will play more, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it comes out. But yeah, it's interesting that they will not decide to start the tour until February when the Super Bowl happens. And then, you're going to have a limited West Coast swing, which is my favorite swing of the PGA Tour. I can remember going with my parents to the Sony Open in Hawaii. I can remember driving from Chula Vista, near where we used to live, over the mountain through Hemet and then down into Palm Springs and go there for the Bob Hope. I can remember going up to Pebble Beach and going to LA and all those events, and they were awesome, and they were great for our family. But it's really difficult to see some of the things that are changing. And, change can be really good. And I think that's what they're trying to do with the PGA Tour right now is they're trying to maybe develop it more. You got Brian Rolapp who came from professional football, and they feel that they don't want to compete with football in the fall or, right after the beginning of the year with the playoffs and everything like that. But they want to, like you said, take over the summer. And I don't know. It's just going to be changed. But all those big venue courses like Pebble Beach, like Riviera, San Diego is going to be an interesting one as well. Those will be in the schedule in some way. And then, there'll be events in the fall. Once the PGA Tour is shut down, there'll be events in the fall like there are right now, but I think there'll probably be more.
I get they want the bigger name players to play more because celebrity and star power draws. I think that's where golf and the NBA have a lot in common, and the NFL with quarterbacks. So I get that. But the reason guys aren't playing as much is because they're making so much money. When your dad played, a lot of guys played 30-plus events in a year because they had to make the money.
Yeah.
Now the money is so big, we're seeing guys down to 25 events, down to 20 events. They had to put a rule in it's more than a few years ago, a couple decades ago, like you have to play 15 times to maintain your membership. Because some guys are making so much money. I just feel like getting rid of these tournaments, they're moving the bags back at first, and to get the membership to sign on, I mean, a lot of the middle-class guys are going to get squeezed here. I mean, if your guy's 75, guy 100, guy 125 on the tour, you're like, whoa. Where's my chance to play and make money? Because those guys pick their spots and are like, hey, I can make money here. I can make money here. I can make money over there. And those tournaments, you used to call them A, B, and C tournaments. They're getting rid of the C tournaments, and a few of the B tournaments is what it looks like.
Yeah, and the whole thing is see, there's less guys that have their card now. It used to be 125. Now it's 100.
Yeah.
So, and then, 70 guys are the guys that lock themselves in. 50 guys are the guys that get in the signature events. And then, you get into the Tour Championship and at 30. So you got to get in that top 50 if you want to be secure with playing with the best players in the world like they did the last 2 weeks at Pebble Beach and at Riviera, and playing those signature events. It'll be interesting to see if they stay signature events or if each event.
I think they are by default. They are by default now. They're going to be so few events.
Yeah, but I think the purses are not going to be the $20 million, $22 million events. I think they're going to come down in the purse amounts a little bit more, but there's going to be more of them, and guys are going to. Yeah. Guys are going to want to play all of those because of the points and all that kind of stuff that get players into the fall and getting them into the Tour Championship and the playoffs and that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's going to be definitely going to be a change. It's going to rile things up. Guys that are the elite players are going to have all the opportunity in the world, and guys that are outside that elite status and getting into those bigger events, not the majors, but the bigger events on the PGA Tour, they're going to have to play their way in. And the way they play their way in is the Aon top 5, the A or the 10, so the 5 and the 10, and then playing well in major championships. They're gonna have to boost their points, get into major championships. Like this kid last week, Bridgman. He was in both of the last 2 events, but now he's won. Now he's pretty much locked himself in for the majors for this year and all the remainder of the signature events for this year. So it was great to see him win. It was tough to see him come down the stretch and only win by 1 when he had a 6-shot lead.
Okay, but
he said the last few holes he couldn't feel anything.
Yeah, but he's
pretty cool.
He's putting at 18. The whole world's looking at him. Tiger's up there with his arms folded. Are you going to gag, kid? Yep. Are we going to have a 3-player?
Yep.
Are we going to have a 3-way playoff here? And that first putt was so short, but the second one was right in the heart.
3.5 to 4 feet short.
And I was broadcasting, it's inside stuff, but when they're like, He's gone 173 consecutive holes without a 3-putt. And the other broadcasters, oh, now you've done it. Now you've jinxed him. And I haven't called golf, but it's the same thing as he's made 27 free throws in a row. Clank.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing.
He hasn't missed a field goal inside 40 yards.
And then they doubled down. Yeah. Well, it's now 174 holes. And he made another, tricky second putt. But nobody had the spine or the to say anything on the 18th hole with a playoff hanging in the balance. I wanted to hear 175 holes in a row.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he's good. He's only been on the tour now for 2 years. He played well enough last year to get himself into the Tour Championship by virtue of that. He gets to play all the signature events this year. So the great thing about golf is it's on the PGA Tour, it's a pure meritocracy. If you get onto the Korn Ferry Tour, guess what? You play well enough, you get yourself to the PGA Tour. Then if you play well enough on the PGA Tour, then you get to start taking advantages of the perks, being able to play in major championships, getting high enough on the world ranking points, and being able to play all the signature events. And it's you get out of what you put into the game and how you play the game, you get benefits. And, it always, the saying is, if you want to get into signature events, if you want to get into majors, if you want to get onto the PGA Tour, you got to play better. And if you play better, then you become a guy like Scottie Scheffler, who in the last 4.5 years has won 20 times and won 4 major championships. And he came off the ranks through the Korn Ferry Tour and from college. And he's been able to he's the number 1 player in the world right now. And his point differential between himself and Rory McIlroy is the same point differential that basically Rory McIlroy to Bob Casper. Bob Casper has 0 points in world golf rankings, and Scottie Scheffler has that big of a lead. So those are the things that matter in the game. Is you go out, you put in the work, you dig it out of the dirt, and you become better each week as you get experience and you have an opportunity to win, and hopefully you win like Bridgman did last week, and are able to get yourself into that elite category on the PGA Tour.
For the golfers who are on the tour now who feel like they're going to get squeezed, do you think this initial trial balloon here that Tiger and the committee have left themselves a little wiggle room for negotiation? He's saying, we'll start after the Super Bowl in Phoenix. But, if you need to add 2 more tournaments to get a few more players on board, it's not hard to move Phoenix back to Super Bowl weekend where it's been a major success and put something else the week after the Super Bowl. And maybe you go to La Quinta and where it's basically an LA tournament. I mean, you say they say they want to play in major markets. That's basically an LA tournament. Yep. And you open the season in the desert where the weather is reliable, and you've got the LA market, and that's how you start every year before you go to Phoenix. And when the Super Bowl moves through Vegas, Phoenix, and LA, which it's going to do because of their dome stadiums, you're right in the proximity right there with back-to-back tournaments.
Yeah, and like you said, they're thinking about that. There's a week off always between the playoffs and the Super Bowl, and they're thinking about starting that during that week off. At least that's what they're starting to say also. Yeah. And then make Phoenix always the week of the Super Bowl championship.
It thrives.
That kind of leads into the Super Bowl. So, and then from then on, it's a matter of how many events you're going to play on the West Coast. It's hard to see the full West Coast go away, but like you said, I think Hawaii's going to be out. They're going to have the Tournament of Champions someplace else. They're talking about bringing one of the playoff events to Riviera or possibly to Pebble Beach.
I saw Torrey Pines mentioned too. Yeah.
Pardon?
I saw Torrey Pines mentioned because they don't think they can get to Pebble Beach. Pebble Beach is making too much money in the summer.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Pebble will. I mean, it's a week, and Pebble will do something. But yeah, Torrey Pines. They just re-upped. Farmer just re-upped for their contract. So Torrey Pines is going to be in the mix
somehow. Yeah.
So but as it goes along, week after week after week, it's just the schedule is going to get different. It's going to change. It's going to. This week is the Cognizant Classic, and it's not a signature event. But still, they're playing for $9 million, and signature events they're playing for 20. So the Bridgman, I keep going back to him, but he made $4 million last week by winning. So and the major championships are going to keep getting bigger. Golf is a game where things have evolved, and I'll tell you what, man, guys are making bank right now. They're making the bag.
And that's why they're playing less. And so all this other stuff isn't addressing it. Now, a couple ideas I got to brainstorm here at the end. And just your immediate reaction, either you personally or how you think the tour will react to this. But your personal reaction, they're going to take a week off after the majors. The players are emotionally gassed. They don't want to go. I don't like it, but I get it. And the media partners see the ratings and see the performances, and I get it, right? So who fills that gap? LPGA, major, senior major, or Live goes to places that have been abandoned by the PGA Tour and tries to pounce on those weekends? We're going to be watching golf. What are we going to be watching?
Yeah, and that's the thing that's where I have a problem with them paring down the schedule to only having 20 to 24 events a year, where, they're normally used to having 38. They're still going to have the fall events, and you're still going to see the fall stuff after the Tour Championship. But what they're doing is they're leaving an opening. Yeah. In the schedule. They're leaving an opening for people wanting to watch golf, and you can watch golf, because the Live Tour is going to have a tournament that week, and I don't understand how you give a competitor.
Why do you give a foothold?
A foothold or a way in to the viewership of golfers, and so something needs to be figured out with that so that doesn't happen. So maybe you do not relegation events, but you do those B and C tier events like you're doing, like Cognizant, or like the fall series events. Maybe you have those to cover at the end of a major championship or on the back end of a major championship. I don't know. It's really, really interesting with the committee that Tiger heads up, as far as the competition is concerned, how that's all going to work out. The
golf ran away from the NFL wisely when they reorganized the tour about 20 years ago, and they put 2 tournaments in Hawaii head-to-head with the NFL playoffs, because with the time zones, they could do primetime golf after the football was done. But football has now morphed into, there's just primetime football every Sunday, so you have to compete with it. So I get how the Hawaii events have been squeezed. I do wonder if they ever reimagine the Korn Ferry Tour at the same time, how much because they need to create personalities coming off the Korn Ferry Tour, and they need to create moments. So what if there were, I don't know, is it top 15 get their cards?
Top 20.
Top 20. So what if they move that to 18 and they hold the 2 Hawaii tournaments, and whoever wins those tournaments in Hawaii is on the tour? Well, you still have an event there. And honestly, that kind of drama, watching people try to make putts for a tour card, win a tournament and get on the tour, and you punch your ticket and it starts next week and you're teasing it. You got to build in some drama here.
Well, and I think they do currently, because it all comes down to the Tour Championship and everything for the Korn Ferry Tour at the end of the year, and those guys that are playing for a card eventually gets to it. It doesn't happen at the beginning of the year, but maybe they could put it at the beginning of the year as far as the Tour Championship is concerned, to have those guys be able to get, jump to the PGA Tour in the same season, starting in January.
18 guys punched 18 guys punched their ticket at the Tour Championship, but everybody else, they do this in other sports. There's a last chance tournament to qualify for Olympic basketball. It's like a last, and you got to fly out to Maui or Oahu or both, and then 2 guys are going to punch their tickets, and the pressure's on. Come on, that it may be a little artificial drama, but we're going to watch that.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool leading into
the tour.
That schedule towards the end of the year. The other thing you got to remember is there's 10 guys that come off of the DP World Tour as well that aren't normally qualified. There's 10 guys that come off of that, and case in point about meritocracy. Patrick Reed decides he's not going to play at Live Golf anymore. He wins 2 out of 3 times in the first 3 events on the DP World Tour, and he's pretty well insured himself his PGA Tour card starting in 2027, and he gets to take advantage of some of it at the end of 2026 this year in the fall. So there's another guy that will be able to come off through the DP World Tour. There's another channel to get onto the PGA Tour. So not only do you have the top 100 from the PGA Tour, but you've got 20 guys coming off the Korn Ferry Tour and 10 guys coming off the DP World Tour. So now you got 130 guys that are trying to work their way through the system to get up into the position where they can get into those elite events and be in the top 50 or the top 70, because it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough to keep your card when you don't have a lot of opportunities to play.
They talk about wanting to play more in the top 30 markets in the country. They don't go to Seattle and Portland, markets 13 and 23. What about rotating a playoff event through Chambers Bay or Bandon Dunes, which is 4 hours from Portland? Nike's up there. I think you could get a sponsor quickly enough.
Oh, yeah.
And in the summer, you can play so late. I mean, the sun sets after 9 o'clock up there. You could be playing until 10 or 10:30 in the Eastern time zone, or 11 o'clock easily. So create a primetime playoff event up there, which is probably why they're going back to California. But the sun's up even later in the Northwest.
You're exactly right, and there'll be new areas of the country in those top markets that will see PGA Tour events, which I think is really, really cool. For so many years on the PGA Tour, we've had these particular tournaments that are set in stone, and the contracts keep getting done and extending and that kind of thing. But there's been a lot of areas of the country that we haven't seen events in. And so, I think the Pacific Northwest will be something that they'll be pushing towards. I can remember my dad, we were talking about this on the show this last week. My dad won a tournament at Portland Golf Club. And he beat Lee Trevino. Alcan, the aluminum company, was the company that sponsored the event. It was the most my dad ever won on the PGA Tour, which was $40,000 for a first place check. He beat Lee Trevino. Lee Trevino was leading by 3 shots with 3 holes to play, and my dad finished birdie, 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 and Trevino finished bogey, triple bogey, bogey, to lose the golf tournament to my dad. But Portland Golf Club is a great golf course. Things would have to be done to that golf course to make it for today's standard of play on the PGA Tour with, the long hitters and stuff like that. They might have to extend it out a little bit. But those areas, Sahali's another one where they've had a PGA championship. So those areas, those courses in those areas would be great to be able to see again, because it's an area of the country that we haven't seen a lot of as far as professional golf is concerned.
Bob, appreciate it as always. We will talk to you when the Masters rolls around, and we're really not that far away, are we? A little more than a month.
No, we aren't. Hey, I got a stat for you.
Talk to me.
Scotty Scheffler finished outside the top 10 last week, so he had 18 in a row. Okay? My dad, prior to Scotty Scheffler, he tied my dad at Pebble Beach with 17 in a row. And my dad in 64 and 65 had 17 in a row, and Scotty tied him or beat him at Pebble Beach. Up until that point, they were tied. So 17 in a row top 10s for my dad, 18 in a row top 10s for Scotty Scheffler. So Dad keeps showing up every once in a while.
See, the name's still out there. Bob,
there it is.
Bob, we appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again when we get close to the Masters.
You got it.
All right, DJ.
Okay, take care.
Yep, DJ and PK, when we come back, everything you missed in this show, we will get to it next, and we'll give away jazz tickets. Stay with us right here on The Zone.